Ladies and gentlemen, I want to start with a simple question. What would happen if you let God take over your day? Now, I know that sounds like a big idea, maybe even a little uncomfortable for some, but think about it. How much of our day do we spend trying to control everything? We plan, we stress, we push, and we grind, thinking that if we just work a little harder, strategize a little better, then everything will fall into place. But here's the reality: life doesn't work that way. I've spoken to countless leaders, entrepreneurs, and everyday people, and there's a pattern I see over and over again. We are exhausted from trying to be in control of everything. The meetings, the deadlines, the relationships, we carry it all on our shoulders. And when things don't go our way, we get frustrated, anxious, even discouraged. But what if I told you the best leaders, the most fulfilled people, don't hold on so tightly? They know when to surrender. Now, when I say let God take over your day, I don't mean sitting back and doing nothing. No great leader, no successful person just waits for things to happen. What I mean is this: trust in something greater than yourself. Because here's the truth: when we surrender, we gain clarity. When we trust, we find peace. And when we let go, we actually create space for something better than what we were trying to force in the first place. We often wake up each day with a sense of urgency, immediately reaching for our phones, checking emails, or mentally running through our to-do lists before our feet even touch the floor. We have meetings to attend, deadlines to meet, responsibilities to manage, and expectations, both our own and those of others, to fulfill. From the moment we wake up, we step into a world that demands control, structure, and precision. Society teaches us that success is a result of careful planning and relentless effort. We are told that if we just work a little harder, think a little smarter, and push ourselves a little further, we can create the life we want. It's an appealing idea. After all, taking ownership of our lives gives us a sense of power. But here's the problem: life is unpredictable. No matter how much we plan, unexpected events will happen. The meeting you prepared for gets canceled. The job opportunity you counted on falls through. The relationship you invested in doesn't work out. When things don't go as expected, our natural reaction is to try even harder to control the outcome. We analyze, strategize, and attempt to force things into place, believing that if we can just manipulate the situation enough, we can make it work. But instead of bringing peace, this approach often leads to frustration, anxiety, and burnout. We carry the weight of everything on our shoulders, believing that we alone are responsible for making things happen. And when we don't succeed, we blame ourselves, feeling as though we've failed. The reality is, the more we try to control everything, the less control we actually have. Stress increases, creativity diminishes, and our ability to enjoy the present moment fades. We become so fixated on shaping the future that we miss the beauty of today. We forget that there's a greater plan at work, one that we don't always need to understand in order to trust. Letting go of control doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean we stop making an effort or ignore our responsibilities. It simply means recognizing that while we can influence outcomes, we are not in charge of everything. There is a limit to what we can do, and beyond that, we must be willing to surrender. Think about the times in your life when things worked out unexpectedly. Maybe you didn't get the job you wanted, but it led you to an even better opportunity. Maybe a closed door forced you to take a different path, one that turned out to be exactly what you needed. These moments remind us that we are not the sole architects of our destiny. When we stop trying to control everything, something amazing happens. We become lighter. The stress of forcing things into place disappears, and we begin to operate with trust instead of fear. We allow space for solutions to appear naturally instead of forcing them. We start to experience life instead of just managing it. Every day we have a choice. We can wake up and fight to keep everything within our grasp, or we can start our day with trust, knowing that we don't have to carry the weight of the world alone. The best days, the ones where we feel the most peace, are the days when we stop striving for control and simply let go. Because when we do, we find that things don't fall apart. Sometimes they fall into place. There is a profound difference between people who live in constant stress and those who move through life with a sense of peace and confidence. The difference isn't necessarily in their circumstances. Some of the most successful individuals face the same setbacks, challenges, and uncertainties as everyone else. The difference lies in their mindset. The most fulfilled people don't spend their lives trying to control every detail. They have learned the power of surrender. Surrender is not about giving up or being passive. It's not about ignoring responsibilities or refusing to work hard. Instead, it's about recognizing that not everything is within our control and learning to trust a higher power in the process. The most successful leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries understand this. They know that while they must show up, put in the effort, and make wise decisions, there comes a point where they must release their grip and trust that things will unfold as they should. Trying to control everything is exhausting. It places an enormous burden on our shoulders, making us feel responsible for every outcome. When things go well, we celebrate, but when they don't, we blame ourselves. This cycle creates unnecessary pressure, leading to stress, anxiety, and frustration. People who operate this way often struggle to enjoy the present moment because they are too focused on orchestrating the future. They are constantly striving but never arriving, always chasing but never fully content. On the other hand, the most fulfilled people have learned that true peace comes from knowing when to surrender. They understand that their job is to do their best, make wise choices, and trust that the rest is in God's hands. They don't waste energy worrying about things beyond their control. Instead of constantly pushing and forcing things to happen, they move with a sense of trust. This allows them to be more present, more creative, and more open to opportunities they may have otherwise overlooked. Think about the greatest leaders in history, figures like Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, and Nelson Mandela. They didn't have control over every situation, yet they led with unwavering faith. They didn't let fear of uncertainty paralyze them. Instead, they focused on what they could do each day and left the bigger picture to God. Their impact wasn't a result of micromanaging every detail of their lives. It was a result of their ability to trust and move forward with purpose. When we surrender, we create space for miracles to happen. We stop holding on so tightly to our own limited ideas and allow something greater to take over. We begin to see that even when things don't go according to our plans, they often turn out better than we expected. Doors that were closed lead to new paths. Setbacks turn into lessons that prepare us for what's next. Letting go doesn't mean life will always be easy. Challenges will still come, and uncertainty will always be a part of the journey. But when we trust, we experience a sense of peace that goes beyond circumstances. We stop living in fear of the unknown because we know we are not alone. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed, take a step back and ask yourself, am I trying to control something that's not mine to control? Am I holding on so tightly that I'm missing the bigger picture? If the answer is yes, maybe it's time to surrender. Maybe it's time to trust that God has a plan greater than anything we could orchestrate on our own. Because the truth is, the most fulfilled people aren't the ones who control everything. They're the ones who know when to let go. There is something incredibly freeing about the act of letting go. For most of us, the idea of surrender feels counterintuitive. We are taught from an early age to take control, make things happen, and push forward with determination. We set goals, create strategies, and work tirelessly to bring our plans to life. But what happens when things don't go the way we expected? What happens when, despite all our efforts, things still fall apart? The natural reaction is to try harder, to force outcomes, to fix problems, to stress over every detail. But what if I told you that the real secret to peace, clarity, and even success isn't found in controlling everything, but in surrendering? When we release our grip and trust God, we gain something far more valuable than control. We gain clarity, we gain peace, and most of the time we end up experiencing outcomes that are better than what we were trying so hard to force. Imagine trying to hold on to sand with a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you open your hand, the sand simply rests there. This is what happens in life when we try to force things. The more we push, stress, and obsess over controlling every outcome, the more life feels chaotic. But when we take a step back, when we loosen our grip, we allow things to fall into place the way they were meant to. Think about moments in your life when you tried so hard to make something work only to be met with roadblocks at every turn. Maybe it was a job you desperately wanted, a relationship you were holding on to, or a plan that seemed perfect in your mind. You fought for it, you strategized, you exhausted yourself trying to keep everything together, and then at some point you had no choice but to let go. And when you finally did, when you released your need for control, something surprising happened. Either things worked out better than you expected, or you realized that what you were fighting for wasn't actually what you needed. This is the power of surrender. It's not about giving up. It's about recognizing that we don't always have the full picture. We see life from a limited perspective, but God sees the whole journey. What feels like a setback may actually be a setup for something greater. What seems like a failure might be a redirection towards something far better than we had planned. When we trust instead of control, we experience peace. Think about how much time and energy we waste worrying. We stress over things that are outside of our control. We replay conversations in our heads. We obsess over what might happen. But when we shift our focus to trust, when we believe that God is working things out on our behalf, we free ourselves from that burden. We start to move through life with a sense of confidence, knowing that we don't have to have all the answers. We just have to show up, do our best, and let God handle the rest. The most beautiful part of surrender is that it opens doors we never even knew existed. When we stop trying to force things, we create space for opportunities, ideas, and solutions that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. When we let go, we gain clarity, our minds become less cluttered, and we are able to focus on what truly matters. When we trust, we experience peace. The kind that isn't dependent on circumstances, but is rooted in the knowledge that we are not alone in this journey. So the next time you feel yourself stressing, trying to control every little detail, take a deep breath and remind yourself, I don't have to have it all figured out. I just have to trust. Because the truth is, when we stop forcing things, life has a way of falling into place in ways we never could have imagined. Throughout history, the most influential, impactful leaders have shared one common trait. They led with faith. Whether in social justice, humanitarian work, or even business, the people who have left the greatest marks on the world were not those who controlled every aspect of their journey, but those who trusted in something greater than themselves. They understood that while they had a responsibility to act, they were not solely responsible for the outcome. They moved forward with faith even when they couldn't see the full picture. Take Martin Luther King Jr., for example. He had no guarantee that his dream of racial equality would become a reality. He faced intense opposition, threats, and setbacks that would have made most people give up. But he didn't. He showed up every day committed to his vision, trusting that even if he couldn't control the entire movement, God was working through him. His faith gave him the strength to persist even when the path ahead seemed impossible. Mother Teresa is another example. She didn't have a step-by-step plan for how she would change the world. She simply saw suffering and responded with love. She trusted that if she showed up every day and did what she could, God would take care of the rest. And he did. What started as a small act of service grew into a global movement that continues to impact lives today. Even in the world of business and innovation, faith plays a role. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs did not achieve their dreams by micromanaging every detail. They had a vision, they worked hard, but they also understood that they had to trust the process. They had to take risks without knowing the outcome, step into uncertainty, and believe that things would work out. This pattern exists for a reason. The most fulfilled and effective leaders are not the ones who try to control everything, but the ones who trust that their efforts combined with faith will lead them where they are meant to go. Trying to control every outcome leads to stress, exhaustion, and frustration. It limits creativity and blocks opportunities. When we become so fixated on our plans, we may overlook the better path that God is trying to lead us toward. We may miss the open doors because we are too focused on the ones that are closed. Faith, on the other hand, allows us to move forward with confidence. It shifts our mindset from fear to trust, from control to surrender. It reminds us that we don't have to know every detail in advance. We just have to take the next step. The leaders who changed the world didn't wait until they had everything figured out. They didn't let uncertainty stop them. They took action, they trusted, and they kept going. And because they moved with faith instead of fear, their impact continues to inspire generations. What if we lived this way? What if we stopped trying to control everything and started leading with faith? What if we focused on showing up, doing what we can, and trusting God with the rest? The truth is, we don't need to have all the answers to make a difference. We don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. We just need to trust that if we keep moving in faith, the path will unfold exactly as it should. Imagine starting your day without stress, without the immediate rush of responsibilities flooding your mind. Imagine waking up with a deep sense of peace, knowing that you don't have to control everything, that you don't have to carry every burden alone. This may seem like a far-fetched idea in a world that constantly demands our attention, energy, and effort. But what if, just for one day, you let go of the need to control everything and instead trusted God with the day ahead? We live in a culture that glorifies control. We plan, strategize, and work tirelessly to ensure that everything goes according to our expectations. And while preparation and effort are important, the reality is that we are never fully in control. Life is unpredictable. No matter how much we plan, things will happen that we didn't expect. People will disappoint us, situations will change, and obstacles will arise. The question is, how do we respond when things don't go as planned? Do we panic? Do we stress ourselves out trying to fix everything? Or do we take a step back and trust that God is working behind the scenes in ways we can't yet see? What if, just for one day, you made the choice to trust? Instead of waking up anxious about the things you can't control, what if you woke up with faith, believing that God has already gone before you? What if, instead of worrying about the outcome, you focused on doing what you could and left the rest in His hands? This doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It simply means shifting your mindset. It means recognizing that you don't have to micromanage every detail of your life. You don't have to stress over every possible outcome. You just have to show up, do your best, and trust that God will take care of the rest. Think about how much lighter your day would feel if you weren't carrying the weight of unnecessary worry. Think about how much more energy you would have if you weren't consumed by anxiety over things outside of your control. When we let go of our need to control everything, we create space for peace. We make room for clarity, and we allow God to work in ways that we never could have orchestrated on our own. This shift in perspective can transform your entire approach to life. Instead of reacting to every challenge with fear, you begin to respond with faith. Instead of seeing setbacks as failures, you start to see them as redirections. Instead of spending your energy trying to force things to happen, you trust that what is meant for you will come in the right time and in the right way. So here's the challenge. Try it for one day, just one. Start your morning with a simple prayer. God, I trust you with today. I trust you with my plans, my worries, my challenges. I will do my part, but I will let you take care of the rest. Then go about your day with that mindset. Whenever stress creeps in, remind yourself, I don't have to figure this out on my own. I don't have to control everything. I trust that God is in charge. At the end of the day, take a moment to reflect. Notice how different you feel. Notice the peace that comes from letting go of unnecessary stress. You may be surprised to realize that when you stop forcing things, life starts to flow more naturally. Because the truth is, when you trust God with just one day, you begin to understand that you can trust Him with every day. There are days when everything seems to go smoothly, when meetings go as planned, traffic is light, and conversations flow effortlessly. But then there are days when nothing seems to work. You spill coffee on your shirt before heading out, get stuck in a never-ending line, or receive bad news that throws off your entire mood. It's easy to get frustrated, to feel like the day is slipping out of your hands. But what if instead of reacting with stress, you simply let go? What if you reminded yourself that God is still in control and that He is working things out, even when they don't seem to be going your way? The best days are the ones when we let God take over. Not because everything magically becomes perfect, but because we surrender the need to control everything. We trust that whatever happens, whether good or bad, is happening for a reason, even if we don't understand it in the moment. One of the biggest sources of stress in life is the belief that we must handle everything ourselves. We think we have to solve every problem, fix every situation, and make sure everything happens exactly as we want. But that's not how life works. No matter how much effort we put in, there will always be things beyond our control. Trying to manage every detail on our own only leads to frustration. We get caught up in worry, fearing that if we don't do enough, everything will fall apart. But when we step back and let God be God, we free ourselves from that burden. We remind ourselves that we are not alone in this journey, that we don't have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. The truth is, we were never meant to control everything. We were never meant to have all the answers or to know every step of the journey before taking the first one. When we trust God, we allow ourselves to live with peace instead of stress. We move through life with a sense of purpose instead of panic. Think about the moments in your life when things worked out better than you expected. Maybe you lost a job, but later found an opportunity that was even better. Maybe a relationship ended, only for you to later meet someone who was truly meant for you. At the time, those moments may have felt like failures, but in hindsight, they were blessings in disguise. This is what happens when we let go and trust. We stop resisting the changes that are meant to guide us towards something better. We stop fighting against the unknown and start embracing the journey. We realize that even when things don't go according to our plans, they are still unfolding exactly as they should. Letting God take over doesn't mean that life will always be easy. Challenges will still come, and there will still be moments of uncertainty, but when we trust Him, we face those challenges with confidence. We don't let fear control us. We don't let anxiety steal our joy. Instead, we move forward with faith, knowing that we are never alone. So as you go about your day, remind yourself, I don't have to control everything. I don't have to figure it all out on my own. I trust that God is guiding me, even when I can't see the full picture. When you wake up in the morning, start with a simple prayer. God, I give this day to you. Lead me where you want me to go. Show me what I need to see. Help me trust you with whatever comes my way. And then just let go. See what happens when you allow God to take over. Because when you do, you'll find that the best days, the ones filled with peace, joy, and purpose, are the days when you let Him lead.